Hello everyone, today we are doing Chains of Love Room from TryHackMe, and I'm going to copy the target IP address here and paste it in my browser. And as soon as we do that, it says we can connect to the server at nova.thm. So this IP is mapped to nova.thm address, and we have to add it in our Linux system as well as on the Windows host, because I'm on the Windows machine and I can access Linux in my WSL because I have Linux installed in the WSL. So I have to add this entry both in my Linux system as well as inside the Windows system. So on Linux, I'm going into etc host and adding this entry real quick, and I'm going to do the same on Windows. So I have added the entry on both systems, and if we refresh the page, we can access this website now. If we take a quick look, we have some images here, and if you open the image in new tab, you can see a folder here which is static images security.png. So let's try accessing the static folder. It says not found. We can try accessing the images folder, but that is also not found. So that means we cannot access these directories, maybe because the directory listing is not enabled. Otherwise, we could have seen the index of files and maybe we could have found something useful there. But that path is blocked. So looking at the source code of this page real quick, we don't see any comments here that might be interesting. Well, there are no comments actually. We only have few CSS and HTML code and the bootstrap link, which is not useful here. And the about section is just about the company here. Services is about all about the services, and these are not clickable. And then we have a contact page which says contact our team, and you can send them a special message to the developers. So this means whatever we send here will be read by the developers because this is what this text says. So if somehow we are able to HTML inject, maybe we can try cross-site scripting and then read the developer's cookies. But even if we read the developer's cookies or do any sort of stuff, there is no authentication involved in this website, right? We do not see any login, sign up, or anything here unless and until we discover any subdomain here. And so as a very basic test, I'm going to try to see if image tag can be embedded. So this is a very basic, very basic HTML injection text. If HTML injection is possible, that means we can try cross-site scripting as well to see if the user browses any of the links that we send here. Now it says thank you for a message. You can see this injection is not possible. If I try to see the source code here by pressing Ctrl U of this page, we can see the class to be preview box and our payload here, which is HTML encoded. So the special characters are filtered out, and this injection is not possible here. So I'm going to move away from this vector as well. So I'm going to close this tab. And now we have two possible ways. Let us just see webalizer output also. It says Nginx web server 1.18.0. We can try to see the specific version vulnerabilities, if any, if it is exploitable, but this is not. Operating system set to be Ubuntu, UI framework is Bootstrap. And there are now two possible ways. We can try subdomain enumeration first, and the second is we can first for directories or brute force directories. So I'm going to try both of these methods. First of all, I'm going to try to use fuzz for testing if we can find any directories here. So I'm going to put fuzz here to fuzz the directories, and I'm going to use the seclist discovery web content. I'm going to use draft small word list, and the thread's gonna be 20. I want, well, let's make it 50 to make it even faster. And as soon as I press enter, we'll see a few things here: admin, contact, about, and services. All right, whoops, I accidentally zoomed in, and so it just added out kind of. So let's just run it once again to see, let it complete, and then we'll see whatever we see. Oh my God, let's just run it again. Yeah, now it's fine. Okay, so we have an admin here, the contact, about, and services. We saw these three parts, but not the admin. So I'm going to open that here really quickly. And we have the Nova.public administrator authentication required here. If we see the webalizer output here, it's still the same. There's no different technology being used here. If you see the source code of this page, scroll down, we'll see it says we recently moved to using JWTs, which is JSON Web Tokens. So for authentication, they might be using JSON Web Tokens. And this username, this password, and nothing interesting else. So we know that they are using JWTs. That's a sign. If we try to see the cookies here in our local storage or in the just in the cookies, we do not see any cookies. So we do not know the format of the JWT that they're trying to explain. We don't know anything here as of now. We can try admin here also. I actually did not enter admin correctly. So admin, that does not work. We are trying common passwords here really quickly. Admin password also does not work. We can try simple SQL injection here also, and that also does not work. We get invalid credentials. So we have found this page. We have found the admin directory. If you notice, sorry for the sloppy cut, I have to move away from the system. So continuing, so if you notice that if you go directly to the admin page, it redirects you to the login page. It does not let you stay at the admin page. Why is that? So we're going to investigate that really quick. So if you open this network tab and see it says status 302, which is redirect. And if you see the response headers of this request, you'll notice it is redirecting to admin login. So there's some code in the admin page that redirects us to login page because it might be checking if we are authenticated or not. So either we can actually try to fuzz the directories inside the admin page also to see if we find anything else. So I'm gonna do that really quick. Our scan is done and we can see one more entry here, which is get ignore. So let's try that as well. Get ignore. Okay, it's not inside the admin folder. It's the root folder, and it is downloaded. So checking this file. So we can see here it is a git ignore file which is using the git projects. So whenever you are using GitHub for a project, you can actually make a git ignore file and you can mention the file names or the folder names here which you want to ignore, and so that they won't be uploaded to the GitHub repo. So here the developer has mentioned two files here, git ignore and the preview feature.py. So the preview feature.py is ignored to not go to the whatever repo that they have set up. But this is a valid information for us because we know the file name of the Python file. And we found this git ignore file at the very root of this website. So that means this thing exists here. This file exists here in the same path. And as soon as we do that, we can see the route here, which goes to contact. So this is the code of the preview feature. So with the name also, we can guess that they are previewing a feature. So this is the contact feature which we saw. And let me open it side by side so that we have a better context. So contact page here. So this is the contact page. And we can see if we try to understand this code, it is checking for the post request and it is extracting the message inside the post request. And this is security by obscurity comment out, which says if message equals to this, if the message content is equals to this, then it will return a template, message template with the config of the app.config. So this is a Flask application that we can find with this code, and it is going to output the config. And yeah, that's it. So let's just try it out really quickly. So I'm going to paste it here and send this message, and we have this text here. Let's see if we can read it properly in the source code. Nope, we cannot. So I'm going to copy this and go to the VS Code again, and let's close this file, make a new file, paste it here, and VS Code detected it as Python, which is not true. Let's change it to JSON, and let's try to format this document, and that does not work. So let's go to this very starting and remove this config. This is not a valid JSON structure. Remove this as well. And let's try to format this. And this still does not work for some reason. So I think that's because of the single apostrophes. So I'm going to replace these apostrophes with the quotes here. And now let's try to format the document, and yeah, it is formatted. So we can see here debug is set to false. These are these false and none values here. You can also see the secret key is set to none for some reason. We are not sure why, because secret key is used to sign the GWT tokens. And if the secret key is none, that means JWT key, how are JWT tokens then assigned? We are not sure of that. The environment is production, version is 2.3.1, database URL is this, which is DB internal 543 to the port number, so it's using PostgreSQL, and Redis, and admin secret is this. So this is the admin secret, but we are not sure what is this. Is this the thing or the string which is used to sign the token? But we do not know the JWT token structure. If we would have known that, then we could try to sign our own cookie, forge our own JWT token, and maybe impersonate as administrator and log into it. Alrighty, so going back, we had one information here which is very critical. So we saw that preview feature.py exists in this directory. Why does that? Because the git ignore also exists in this directory. And this is a common file structure. So if you have a git, let me explain it better actually. So let's say you are working on a project, right? And you have initiated git init here. So let's just do that really quick. So we have initialized the empty git repo here. If we do ls here, we don't see anything, but if we do ls-la, because it is a git folder, we can see the git is hidden here. Now, if you would have some project files here, let's say main.py or app.py, right? So we will have these files here as well as our git ignore file. So git ignore, and inside the git ignore, we could add entries like what we saw earlier, right? So maybe I don't want it to expose the environment, or let's just say I don't want it to expose or upload the main.py file. So I'm going to add this entry inside the git ignored file. Now we can see the entire structure of our project. Here is the app.py script, here is the git folder, here's the git ignore in the same folder, not inside any other folder, and here we have the main.py as well. So we saw that the git ignore exists here, as well as our preview feature also exists here. So app.py or main.py should also exist in the same directory. So basically, we're trying to enumerate the Python files or the entire project files. Because if you are working with Flask, the main application that starts the Flask application is either named app.py or main.py, and we can quickly try that. So I'm going to enter main.py, and it just shows nothing. So and it says not found. Yeah. So if we do app.py here, we can see that we have this file here. So this is the main file that starts the Flask application. We can see here it is importing modules here, so like OS, JWT, and request. So here we have our admin secret also, which is equals to the JWT secret. And our JWT secret is os.environment.getAdmin secret. And I guess this is the admin secret, and this is the secret key that is being used to sign the tokens. All right, that is one key information here. Next, we have admin username, so we can copy this username and log in now. So I'm gonna log in really quick, copy this, paste it right here, sign in, and we are signed into the portal. Perfect. So before going into the portal, I would like to see what other endpoints are there that we have or might have missed. We saw all these endpoints. We saw the contact also. It is same. We have the verified JWT, and well, we have the JWT token, and we are logged in, so we don't need that anymore. We have admin login also, and it is okay. It is checking for the admin role. We have the admin. Okay, we discovered that earlier that it is trying to fetch the token from the cookies, and it verifies the token. If the role is not equals to admin, it will say unauthorized. Then we have admin fetch. I guess this is the utility that we have seen here, which is internal QA URL fetch tool. So we can try any internal IP address here, like HTTP 127.0.0.1. Let's see if we can access it. It says unauthorized. Okay, that is weird. Let me refresh the page. Oh, okay, we are logged out, so we have to log in again. Okay. Okay, so let us try that again. So HTTP 127.0.0.1, which is the local address, and it says digits are not allowed. We really like DNS. Okay, let us see the source code of this route. Here's the admin fetch, as we saw earlier. It is request. Okay, let me open this up in VS Code. I don't like the code which is not verified. Okay, so we have the admin fetch here, and let me change from JSON to Python. Okay, so now it is fetching the token from the cookies, and it is verifying the JWT to see if we are logged in or not. That is done. Now it is fetching the URL argument or URL parameter value from the GET request. If it does not find it, it says no URL was provided. But if there is any digit in the URL, it will say digits are not allowed, which we saw right now. It is not allowing digits. Once that is done, if there are no digits, it moves on, and then it makes a GET request to the URL that we have specified with the timeout of 5 seconds. So if any response is not received within 5 seconds, it will time out and raise an exception here which says request failed or simple timeout error. And once it makes the request, if the request is successful, it returns the response of that request. Alrighty, so we are dealing with requests here, and we cannot type any digits. So like we cannot try 0000 or 127.0.0.1 addresses. So that is a bit challenging task here. Now our main concern should be or our main thought process should be, what are we trying to achieve here? We have the admin access here. We can see we cannot click any of these because these are not accessible. If we try to see the source code of this website or this page, we can see only the admin is accessible, which is the dashboard, except that we do not have anything. We only have the admin fetch utility. So there's nothing to be discovered here except just this utility. So like if even if I let's just try to see if we can access nova.thm from here. If I press enter, we can see that yep, we can access the nova.thm from here. Now let us see if we try localhost, what happens. Of course, this application runs on localhost, so we can see it, and yep, we can see it. Now this is the URL here. So the URL is admin fetch, and then the URL, and the URL that we specify here is entered here. So even if I try to enumerate ports like 8080, it will say digits are not allowed. So it took me a lot of time to discover what has to be done here, and that is nothing but subdomain enumeration. So we can try for different subdomains that might be accessible just from the localhost or just from inside of the system instead of the external users. So what I mean is that this is an internal tool, right? So we can try for any internal websites that we can access that might be running on the system. So for that, I'm going to first the subdomains or the URL, right? So let's just do that again. I'm using the subdomains word list here, 5000.txt, and this is the wrong URL actually. So if you do inspect and go to the network tab, you press run fetch here, you can see the exact URL here. So this is the GET request that is being sent. So we have to enter this here, and now we should be good to go. So if I press enter, we can see a lot of requests because we did not enter any filtration here. So I want to filter all of the requests that have lines 1, because in the error we can see if there is any invalid host like we entered here, there's only one error line, right? So we are filtering out all the pages that have this one line, that has this one line. So filter 1, and we'll let it run and see if we can find anything. So we did not find anything, so let us try again with a different word list. So this was just 5000, so I'm going to try a different one here. Let's see, let's try the 11,000 one, or I guess it's 1 lakh something. Okay, so while this was running, I just discovered one thing that we did wrong here, and that is we are trying to access this URL. So we should always try to make a simple curl request first of the request that you are trying in FUF. Because if we try this request, we'll see it says unauthorized, and that is because we have not attached our cookies. So I'm going to add a header here in the FUF command, and we'll say a cookie to be whatever cookie that we have in the headers here, request header. I'm going to copy this and paste it here, and then press enter, and we'll let it run. And okay, we'll found internal subdomain really quickly, and I'll let it run so that if we have anything else, we can find that. So I'm going to close this. Whoops, not close this. Go back and let's see, internal.nova.thm. I'm going to pen HTTP here, press enter, and we can see this internal application. So it says Nova Secure Python Sandbox. So this is a Python sandbox. If you have heard it for the first time, a sandbox is a sandbox, of course, which means you cannot execute all of the functions in Python. It only lets you execute certain functions or certain methods, such as just so that you cannot escalate into the system, do something malicious, read files or write files. So this is done for the security purposes. And our main task here is to bypass those security services or security methods. So here we can see it is 1 plus 1. We can enter anything else here. Let's just do that, like 1 plus 1, press run, and it says no URL provided. And that is because our URL changed to code equals to. So this is new, this parameter is new. Admin fetch is the utility that we were using to fetch the pages. This code is new. I guess this is the code that we were trying to run, because if you see here, it says 1 and then %2b is the encoding, URL encoding for the plus symbol, and then the 1. So okay, so what we can do here is add one more parameter here, and then question mark code equals to 1 plus 1, press enter, and it says digits are not allowed because we are accessing this program from the fetch utility, which does not let you use digits. So maybe we can try to do something else like print a something else. And we can see the code changed here, but we do not have any output here, which is really weird because we should have the output of print, right? Okay, that's weird. I'm gonna check the source code here. And we can see this is the run button. This is the main.py, which we can see here. This is the text area of the code. So whatever we specify in the code parameter is embedded here. So let me see what is the request being sent when we click on run. So if we click on run, we can see only code parameter being attached, nothing else. Okay, so let us try to do something else. Let's see. So if we do A plus B, we are trying to do string concatenation, and we can see it says A, B. All right. So whatever is specified is being executed. If we do print A plus B, and there's nothing. We entered plus symbol, but the plus symbol is missing here. And that is because in the URL encoding, a plus in the URL means a space. So this is getting a little bit, you can say, complex because of the encodings and the routes from which we are accessing this internal application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a burp suite, and from the burp suite we are going to access this request so that it is easier to play with this request because we have to replay the same request again and again. Okay, so I have launched the burp suite. I'm going to turn on the proxy here. I'm going to refresh this page. We have the request captured here. I'm going to send this to the repeater by pressing Ctrl R and then turn off the intercept. We have the request in the repeater. Now the display might be small, so I'm going to increase the display font size. All right, I hope it's better now. So let's send this request and we can see the response here, and which is main.py print. If we render this, we might be able to see it better way. Okay, so we have this here. Now we can see our plus symbol here. If we try to URL encode this as well by pressing by going to the convert selection to URL encode all characters that I have selected, and it gets converted to person to be. Send this, and it is still the same. So let me try it encoding one more time. Encode all characters, send, and say digits are not allowed because now we have digits here. So let's just go back, and this is kind of messy stuff. So I'm going to do something else. Let's just try import function. So import plus OS. The plus means space here. It says import is not allowed in the sandbox. Okay, so this is sandbox, of course. So we have to try different ways to see what is allowed, what is not allowed in order to bypass and then do something that we are not supposed to do, such as read a file or write to a file. We can see if a read function is allowed. So read says read is not allowed. Let's see if write is allowed. Write is also not allowed. So this is a cute example of PyJail, if you have ever heard of it. And you can see it here already that I have visited some links. So it says PyJail cheat sheet and PyJail. And PyJail is also a Python module which is designed to provide a secure environment for executing the untrusted code, which is what we are doing here. So we might be an attacker that is trying to execute a code which is malicious, which can grant access to the system. So for this, a PyJail is introduced, using which you can make a sandbox similar to this, and where user cannot execute dangerous commands. Some users do not use PyJail; they make their own PyJail, right? So we have the PyJail cheat sheet here. So looking inside this cheat sheet, I'm going to turn off the proxy first. Okay. So we have a lot of ways that we can try to bypass this PyJail, such as printing the self functions. So if we try this, the first one, let's just see what happens. As soon as we do that, we can see the underscores or the dunder methods are not allowed in the Python sandbox. So we know that these things are not allowed. So all the payloads that have these dunder methods are the methods that have these underscores in it. So that's a very, very, very simplified explanation. of the tender methods. We also have the breakpoint function. So let us see if we can use breakpoint. It says breakpoint is also not allowed in the sandbox. The exec and eval functions are also there. So most probably, of course, they won't be allowed because this is a very basic thing, which will, of course, be disallowed. And we can see here, this is not allowed. So similarly, we have a lot of things here. We also have this payload here, which is end, then open the flag.txt file. Let's see if that works. And here we can see something interesting. It says file not found error. So there's no such file as flag.txt. Okay, we know that. So we can try a known file path such as etc password. As soon as we do that, it says type error and takes at most 2 arguments. If we remove the let's just remove the D from the password. Let's just keep it past W. It will say file not found. So any invalid file path leads us to file not found. But if we have the valid folder path, let's say etc, it is a valid folder, right? It will say is a directory error. So we can enumerate directory this way, right? So we can also see that home is a folder. It will say it is a directory. Fine. Now let's see. So etc and this file which does not exist. So it will say file not found. Perfect. So, but if we have a file which does exist, it will say type error. Alrighty, so this is one probable way of finding which files exist in the system and which folders exist in the system. So this is going to be a kind of a brute force or the fuzzing method. So let's see some more ways using which we might read the file, right? Because we cannot use the read function to read the file. If you don't go further, just take a look at this function. It is for raising the exception. If you are into web development or software development, you might have used this function and it raises the exception. And the exception here, which you define here, will be raised. So if we are opening a file here, such as etc password, and we are raising the exception, most probably we will be able to read the contents of the etc password file. Let us copy this and paste it here and select your entire payload because there are spaces involved here. So I'm going to press Ctrl U to URL encode it so that the space will be replaced by plus and any special character will be converted to URL encoding, sorry. We can see here says syntax error. So that might be probably because of the raise keyword. I'm going to remove the raise keyword and just the exception to raise an exception. And it says file not found. Now, okay, we know we have a file name in mind, which is etc password. And just to show you that it is the same thing here, I believe, you can see it says etc is a directory. Perfect. Now I'm going to do password here, etc password, and it raises the exception with the file contents of the etc password file here. And here we can let's just do this ready and let's search for bash here. I'm doing bash search so that I can see which users have the shell access. We can see root user, and the other user is Ubuntu user. So we have 2 users in the system, Ubuntu and root. Now we need to know which user we are. So there are 2 ways. There are only 2 possibilities. We might be Ubuntu or root user, right? We might be a system user, or we might be a www-data user because this is running as Flask. So we might be this user as well. We are not sure, right? So what I like to do is let's go from bottom to the down. So if we are root user, we might be able to access a file which cannot be accessed by any other non-privileged users like root. Only root user can access the etc shadow file. That means any user with the privileges of root can access the shadow file. So if we can access the shadow file here, that means we are the root user. If we cannot access the shadow file, it says permission denied or some sort of error, we know that we are not root user in the system. We are Ubuntu or www-data user. Let's just try that first. So we can do etc shadow here. And going to the bottom, we can see the contents of the etc shadow file, which is wow, awesome. And that means we are the root user in the system. That is crazy. So we have the root privileges. And that only means one thing, which is trying to find the SSH keys of the root user. So I'm gonna go inside the root user and .ssh folder. Let's see what happens here. It says it is a directory. So I'm gonna paste here and auto scroll. so that it automatically scrolls here. Or let's just select this so that we can see output. So root SSH, and then let's see the if the ID exists in this path. It says file not found. Okay, let's see if authorized keys file exists in this path. And it does indeed. So authorized keys is present, but we do not know the file name of the private key. It is not ID, it is something else. Okay, so we can try to read the bash history of this user, right? Every user in Linux has their own bash history, so we might be able to access that. So let's see, bash underscore history, and then we can access the bash history file of this user, which is again perfect. And I'm gonna this is not readable, so I'm gonna go to the bottom and select all of this output, go to the inspector and expand this a little bit, decode from HTML encoding, and we can see the proper output here. And let's just copy this and let's analyze it here. I'm gonna change it to HTML. It is not HTML, but I just want it to be refactored. Actually, I want to format it, and yep, we have it formatted somewhat. So there are certain ways to replace these slash n, which is known as new line, to replace the new lines with the actual new line so that it will be pretty much formatted. So I'm not going to do that. I don't know why. But we can see here output. So it is the first thing that the user did here is he went inside the op directory, and inside the op he listed the files, unzipped the nova.zip file here, so we know that that thing exists here. Actually, let me do it. So using sed in bash, we can actually replace. So I'm searching for the new lines, and I have to escape this slash with another slash. I'm searching for the slash n inside this file, and I'm going to replace it with the new lines, actual new lines, and we are going to search that globally in this file. And the file name is history, and let's see it. And this is pretty much formatted. Okay, so let's see it inside the VS Code. All right, so it looks good now. So cd opt, it went into the opt folder, unzip the nova.zip folder, zip file, clear the terminal, and he went inside the internal app folder. So, okay, so we have opt folder. Inside this, we have internal app folder. Inside that, we have the flag, and also the internal app Python file. And it did some commands to initialize this, install some modules, and set up the website here. And all of this is just setting up the website. And we can see this is the opt nova folder. I'm going to copy this, and they are going to the public app folder, removing the git folder completely, remove the preview feature file. You can also see here they made a comment preview feature with the username daniel@thm.com. That is that. So yeah, let's just try to read our flag file now. So I'm going to replace this with the cd opt, opt nova flag.txt, send it. Says file not found. Um, did we miss something? I guess, yeah, inside the opt we had nova, and then we had internal app folder. Inside that we have the flag.txt. And there we go. We have the flag. We have solved this challenge. If I was not able to explain anything, pardon. And if you have any questions, comment down below. That is it for this one. Thank you so much.